All right, you should be live. Yes, you are live. So you can test. You can say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We're doing a quick test before we go on live.
Well, we are live.
Or before we officially start in 3 minutes. Testing the microphones and the camera.
You can hear me too.
Can you hear both of you?
Let me check the thing. Let me check the settings.
You couldn't really hear me though, so I wonder if it's because you were close to her.
Check one.
Facebook Live.
I'm just going to say hello to everyone to see if I'm seeing comments.
We have about 1 minute before we start. There's plenty of shady seating in the back. I think everybody back there can hear me.
And I'll bring a microphone for them to ask questions.
Molly can. He's going to have her questions.
I'll just take one off. It should reach anywhere.
Okay.
I'm just posting real quick. Thanks for joining us this evening.
I don't come prepared.
Okay, yep. We have people on, I see.
There's the official start.
Wait for the bells.
There goes your
Hold on. Good evening and hello to all of you, parents and interested people on both here and on Facebook. I hope you're having a good summer. I hope you're getting a chance to rest and relax. We're here tonight because we want to do everything we can to assure you of the many precautions we're taking to make sure that your children are safe. We were charged with the monumental task of planning for phases 3, 4, and 5. This plan was developed based upon the recommendations of the state task force, which had about 23 members, the diocesan task force, which had 43 members, the staff at St. Bridget, and the school committee. If you're doing the math, that means that we had input from approximately 90 people to create this plan. Tonight, I'll answer the questions first that were emailed to me, and then I'll field any questions that you have. Please keep in mind that sometimes the best answer is, I don't know yet. I don't know how some things will look because the guidelines keep changing as we move forward and backward. I do want you to know that every decision that we do discuss tonight was made in the interest of keeping your kids safe and to try to mitigate risks in a multitude of situations. So before we get started, I would love for Father Andy to lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilkowski, and thank you to all of you who are here in person. I see a whole bunch of stuff on the phone screen, which means we have several who are also joining us on Facebook tonight. I do want to say one of the things that was most heartening to me was how the emails that I was copied on, how many of you were concerned about the faith of your children? That's exactly why we're here. We're here to proclaim the gospel. We're here to celebrate the life in Christ. And before I pray, one other thing I have to say, and I'm compelled to say, is what a blessing Mrs. Wilkowski has been in leading us since last March. Thank you, yes. She has put in more hours this summer than any other summer. There's been more activity in the school and in the school office in getting us to this point, and still the weeks between now and when school actually starts. So there has been a great deal of love and preparation for all of the phases going in already. So thank you, Mrs. Wilkowski. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Good and gracious God, we give you thanks and praise for the gift of our children. As we seek to educate them in the mysteries of your creation, we also seek to keep them safe and healthy, that they might grow in your grace and an abundance of your blessing. Help us as well to utilize the gifts and talents of our teachers to keep them healthy and strong, that they may continue to share their love of knowledge and their understanding of the mystery of creation with our children. Bless us tonight as we gather. Calm our fears and anxieties. Lord, we know that our world is filled with anxiety on many levels and many facets, but we seek to fasten ourselves more firmly to the rock of your Son. Help us to breathe always in deeply through the gift of the Spirit, which illuminates our world and helps us to see as you see. And as you see, all is for your glory and all is for your praise. And so we begin seeking to proclaim your glory and your kingdom as we pray, glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I'm going to allow Mrs. Wilkowski to continue to do the good that she's doing and sharing this hard work.
All right, I'm going to start by giving you some of the questions. I'll explain my answers. If you have further questions, if you kind of wait till I get through some of those, then I'll definitely open it up and we can continue that discussion. So one of the first questions that came up is, what will instruction look like this year? Will we be doing the same things? One thing I can tell you is something that we have always prided ourselves at St. Bridget is that we do what we consider to be best practices, what research shows to be best practices. And one of those things is working in groups. And so just because we have to practice some social distancing doesn't mean that we cannot work in groups. So one of the things the kindergarten, for example, does is they do centers-based instruction. We will still be able to run centers. We'll have to change some of the practices in order to keep kids safe. For example, sanitizer will be required at every station. So a student will sanitize, then sit down to manipulate whatever it is that they're doing. If sanitizer is an issue for a particular student, we have sinks in every classroom, and the students can wash their hands before each rotation. Students will use their own school supplies. The reason you haven't had a school supply list is we have had to revamp that a little. In the past, especially at the younger grades, a lot of those school supplies were put into a collective group glue box, for example. You're going to keep the glue supplies separate, the crayons separate, the scissors separate. Clear desk shields will allow students to sit at a table together, or in the case of a large class, to sit together. This particular tub that we have is somewhat opaque. I've ordered some clear ones. We're simply taking a storage tub and cutting it to create a clear desk shield that can easily be cleaned, that can be seen through, so that the students can still work, but if one of them sneezes, it won't get on the other student. Nice demonstration there. The materials that they're chosen, kindergarten, for example, one of my kids, my own personal kids, favorite kindergarten activity is free choice. Free choice is still an option. We just have to be careful about the materials that we're doing. Cleaning Legos, for example, is going to be challenging. Cleaning some of the larger toys, not as challenging. So we can certainly make that happen. Some materials we can be packaged into pre-packaged bags that will be assigned to the student for the year. So for example, with Legos, we have enough Legos that we could assign a bag of Legos to every kid. And if they want to play with Legos, they get their specific bag. Again, it limits the amount of people that are touching it. Frequent hand washing and sanitizing is still going to be a part of that. Probably, we won't have all the students come to the carpet and sit for a story as they have in the past. We'll have a smaller group spread out, some at tables, and then we'll rotate on a regular basis. Those things that we hold traditional and we know to be best practices will still happen. They'll just look a little bit different. Groups, maybe, I already said that, in the upper grades, because the students are wearing masks, they won't have desk shields on a regular basis unless we decide to put them into a group such as this. The other nice thing about the desk shields is we intend to put their names on it. That desk shield moves with the kid. So if the kid sneezes on it, it moves with them. So that helps with that practice. Another question came up is, why did we choose to do one class at a time for the masses? We still want all of the students to be able to participate in the ministries related to mass. The reason that we're not doing it, I know on Sundays we socially distance, everybody wears a mask, has to do with our guidelines from the governor if someone were to be sick. We are compelled to comply with our local health departments. And if a student is kept in a cohort, meaning with their classroom teacher only, then if a student in that class becomes sick, we may have to quarantine one class. But if they are exposed to multiple classes, then we may be asked to quarantine multiple classes. So the whole idea behind putting one group in the church at a time was simply so that we could quarantine the least number of students if we have to do that. Now, having said that, we will definitely stream the Mass the way that we do for 9 a.m. Masses so the students can watch it. And Father Andy will still bring Eucharist to all students in the school. So they will still participate in those parts of the Masses.
Can I say a couple more words?
Absolutely.
This is one of the questions. It is hard to say, gee, we can't have every student in school at the Mass. And that is because, of course, we're a faith-based organization. What we do here, everything we do, is built upon Mass. So I am committed, and Father Mark will be helping me throughout the year to make sure that your students, and if you haven't had a chance to meet Father Mark, if you want to stand up for a second. This is Father Mark. His primary duties are at CMU, but he's going to be helping here, especially on Wednesdays. So we will make sure that your students have access to the sacrament. And there's something to be said about streaming the Mass as a class and streaming the Mass individually at your homes. I know at home, your sons and daughters get pretty easily distracted, but as a class, it's going to be a holy moment. And immediately following that Mass, the fruits, the Eucharist, will process through the school. That's a very powerful presence of the Lord, even to those younger grades, we will make sure to stop, to bless them, to allow them that chance to know that Jesus is completely, fully present to us in the Eucharist, to nurture that knowledge. We're also looking at additional ways that we can engage the children. We'll continue, as long as it's safe, we'll continue to have Eucharistic exposition on Wednesdays. So even though the class may not be able to be present for that Mass, they will still have an opportunity to come for an age-appropriate amount of time of quiet prayer with the Lord. Obviously, 5 minutes is a long time for most of us, actually. So kindergartners, first grade, it will be an age-appropriate amount of time that they're able to gather, one class at a time. And also, Father Mark and I will work at making the Word more present in your classrooms by increasing the amount of time that we're going into the classroom to talk and to reflect on the gospel with your students. And so we will do everything we can. While they won't necessarily be at all one Mass together, we'll even look at possibly having students present at more than one Mass throughout the week if schedules allow that. So it's not something we're taking lightly. Phase 5, if we're able to keep our contagion of COVID low in Phase 5, we'll certainly be able to have more than one class present in Mass at a time. That was an edit that we all missed when we were looking at things, because you're looking and looking and looking and talking and talking and talking, and then that was an edit that we missed it immediately. After we sent it out, I said to Laura, in Phase 5, we can have more than one class, right? So, and we can't tell you how many classes. Part of that's going to be dependent upon what our capacity, what our distancing requirements in the church are at the time. But we will have more than one class in Phase 5. So if we stay healthy and are able to keep the spread down and we progress instead of regress along that reopening plan, then we will certainly have more of the year that the students will be exposed, gathered as a group at Mass than just one class. Thank you.
I know another concern has to do with the masks. For young students, the mask will be worn into the building, in the hallways. Once they're in their classroom, K to 5 students can take the mask off. That's the idea behind having a cohort. You're exposed to only that group of students throughout the day. Middle school students will be required to wear the mask throughout the day. So the question came in, will they be able to take off their mask if they need to take a deep breath? And the answer is, of course they will be able to. I am not scheduling mask breaks where the whole class will go out and take a break at one time. But if a student needs to step into the hall and take off their mask and breathe deeply, surely that can be done. In fact, there will be occasions where the teachers will take classes outside, and if they are socially distanced, again, they can remove their mask and be instructed in that manner. So we certainly understand that is challenging when you haven't done that before. Having said that, I can tell you that it's very important to find the right mask for your child. I've personally bought about 5 different kinds of masks to find one that was comfortable for each person in our family. And each person chose a different type of mask. So you may have to go through several types to find one that is comfortable for your child to wear for extended periods of time. In addition, it's easier to keep it on when there's plenty of fresh air. So one thing that we plan to do is to open the windows in the classroom, get that fresh air in. But it will mean that you will have to dress for the weather. If it's warm outside, shorts might be a good idea. If it's cold outside, you might consider sending a fleece or a sweater in with students. The other thing about keeping the windows open is that it helps the particles in the air to fall more quickly. And so the abundance of fresh air is going to help with that. Please remember, again, that the little children will only need to wear it in the hallways. However, if your child is going to participate in either before school care or after school care, that is another time where the mask would need to be worn. And the reason for that is that you will have multiple ages of students together. So that is going to be a requirement. Another question came in, what happens if a student coughs or sneezes? Are you going to send them home? And the answer is certainly not because they coughed or sneezed. I can tell you, I have allergies and asthma. I cough every day. The fact that I cough is not necessarily an issue. If there were to be a fever that ran along with it, or a cough that is not something that I normally do. The allergy cough tends to be up here in the throat. It's a tickly feeling. The COVID cough tends to be something deeper in the chest. Certainly we will encourage students to not look badly upon their classmates if their classmates cough or sneeze. It's not an indication that they have the coronavirus, and we will definitely communicate that. Having said that, I would ask that you do check your students each day for symptoms. You are going to be the first line of defense in this safety plan. If you can keep your kids home when they are showing any symptoms, such as fever, heavy coughing, obviously not a daily cough, headache, those type of things, nausea, vomiting, those are reasons to keep your kids home. Since we're talking about fever, another question came out. Why did we choose the temperature 99.7 instead of the CDC recommended 100.4? We've done that for multiple reasons. Number one, in the past, for every other flu season, 99.7 was our cutoff. So first of all, it allows us to be consistent. Second, this is the temperature at which the diocese has asked us to stay consistent with. So across the diocese, our staff screening forms say that a normal temperature for 11 to 65-year-old people is up to 99.7. The third reason is that in the last year, there has been some research that has come out that said that normal for some people is not 98.6. Normal for some people is closer to 97.5. If indeed that is the normal temperature for someone, 99.7 would be a fever range for them. So I decided to err on the side of being a little too cautious than a little too lenient. I do hope that you understand. The other thing is the highest temperature that your kid runs typically is in the afternoon, from everything that I've read on the CDC website. So if your child is running a 99.7 degree temperature in the morning, that temperature is likely to go up by late afternoon. The next question that came up was, what will parent involvement look like this year? This is a sad fact of phase 4, that in this phase, parents will not be able to be involved in the way they have been in the past. We still may ask for room parents. If there's a holiday party, for example, the room parents may organize a treat to be sent in, but the room parents will not come in and lead activities as they have in the past. Only essential personnel are permitted to be in the building. Likewise, for programs during the school day, such as junior achievement and so forth, at phase 4, that is not permissible. And that leads to the next question, which was, why did we decide to not have athletics in phase 4, even though the public schools are attempting to try it? And my reason for doing so was it seemed very inconsistent with the guidelines that they laid out for me during the day, where I could not have volunteers and other people come into the building, but in the evening I could not only have them come in the building, but the students that were playing would be playing without masks. I didn't like the inconsistency, number one. Number two, it added to the burden of our custodial staff, that they would have to clean after each game and before the next game. And number three, because of the added cleaning time, it meant games would go late into the evening. So we decided for phase 4, we would not have the athletics. At phase 5, we will look at intramural athletics. Certainly I understand the importance of athletics, but I also wanted to err on the side of safety first. Another question that came up had to do with travel. If parents want to take a trip, do they have to stay home for 2 weeks? And the answer at this point is if you travel out of state, we are asking you to quarantine for 2 weeks. During that time, assignments can be sent to students by the classroom teacher. However, it would be unfair to expect the classroom teacher to have to do a video lesson and an in-class lesson each day. If, however, a student is quarantined due to illness, we will try to do video lessons to the extent that both the teacher and the sick student are able to. Students will also be given additional time to make up the material when they return. I will, by mid-August, send out a drop-off and pick-up schedule. I have not been able to get that done with everything else just yet. But by mid-August, my hope is that it will stagger drop-off and pick-up times by a few minutes per group to allow for less congregation out here and a little more social distancing. And I will get that to you as soon as I have it. As far as supply lists, that should have gone out in an email today. And so there are some things on the list that you'll notice that often are not in the grocery store. For example, sanitizing wipes. We put 1 to 3. Depending on what you are able to find, send as many as you can. If for some reason, I see a couple confused faces, you did not get the email, please email Tracy Shark and we'll make sure that you are added to that list. We just redid the list. Lunches will continue in the cafeteria. Our gym is very big, and so we're able to move the tables almost as much as 30 feet away from each other. So we can do that, and then within the tables, still space students out. So lunches can still happen there. Recess will happen in this lovely space. We'll have one group on the playground, one group here, one group will take place in between the school and the church, and each day we will switch so that you're not always in the same place. In addition, the students will have a basket of equipment that's designated for their room. Things like balls, hula hoops, jump ropes, they may still be played with, but your kindergarten students will play with the equipment in the kindergarten basket, for example. I've been asked what kinds of things can they still play. They can play like children do. We might not use the Gaga ball pit because that tends to push kids together, but certainly foursquare, jump rope, hula hoops, kickball, even tag is permissible, okay? And then if we have to move to phase 3, as we did last year, grades 3 through 8 will each receive a Chromebook. I am planning to send out a survey to K-2 parents starting tomorrow to find out what type of electronic equipment you may have available. For those that don't have a device, we do have some extra Chromebooks, and we have some netbooks, which is the series before, that were fixed up enough to use on the internet. So we can provide those for those that do need them. The diocese is in the process of trying to create a virtual platform for those who do not feel that they are comfortable with being in school. That is at least a 1 semester commitment, so you can't jump in for a month and then jump out. The reason for that is obviously it's a fairly large commitment on the part of the diocese to take on a teacher to do that. So there should be more details about that coming out soon, but that's all I have. This morning I did meet with Midland Public Schools to talk about how shared time would work. This is what they have shared with me. Spanish and music will take place within the classrooms. Art will still take place in the art room, mostly because we at St. Bridget weren't real comfortable with kids painting over the carpet in all of the rooms. So what we will do is, instead of a 40-minute art period, they may only have a 30-minute art period to allow 10 minutes for the teachers to do some disinfecting in between classes. Fifth grade band is the one that they have the least information on. He said likely at the beginning of the year they will start with note reading and rhythm instruments. So percussion, maracas, that type of thing, reading and understanding the beats behind a note. How quickly they can actually get into instruments is yet to be determined. And so as soon as I have more information on that, I will let you know. I do know for middle school band, it's still taking place. What we plan to do is get outside, play outside as often as possible. When the inclement weather happens, we will spread them out in the gym because we have a fairly small middle school band, and that should not be an issue. So those are the major questions that were sent in. I would like to have time to take your questions. This is Molly Shaner. She is our 6th grade homeroom teacher, but also our middle school science teacher. And so she's going to come around with a microphone, and if you have a question, just wave your hand, and I will try to field some questions kind of as we go.
Get him over there, right over there.
While she's walking, I will also say if you're on Facebook, you may also send in your questions. Mrs. Shark is over here. She is writing down questions, and she'll pass them to me to answer as well.
Hello? Okay. Join. I just have if we
Try one more time. You broke up.
Hello?
Yes.
If we go back to phase 3 and we're doing the virtual education, will that be recorded or will it be at a designated time?
We can do both. So last year what we were able to do is we did a live version, but we also were able to record so that students that were not able to watch at the same time could watch it later in the evening. Thank you. That's a good question. You can either shout it or...
Will there be more content? Is just that one little half an hour?
Phase 3.
Yes. So the question was for phase 3, will there be more than just the half an hour content? And the answer is yes. What I would like to see for phase 3 this year is that every class has at least 2 meets per week live, as well as some recorded meets per week. So whereas there might only be 2 interactive sessions, and the reason for that is if everybody is interacting at the same time, some of our larger families were not able to get on because there were so many of their students on the Wi-Fi. So we try to stagger them a little bit. But having said that, we're using a platform called Seesaw from K to 5. It is amazing. The ability of the teacher to do a lesson and record it and then have a student record themselves is fantastic. And I think you're going to be impressed with the ease of the program. And so the answer is they will get probably something in every subject every day, but at least 2 face-to-face or Zoom type of a meet during the week per subject. Except for specials, which have yet to be determined.
I have a question about the after-school program.
Absolutely.
So if the intent is to cohort classes and you have a kindergartner with a 5th grader and the 5th grade class has to be cohorted, what happens to that kindergartner that was around the 5th grader who's cohorted?
So again, that would be a decision on the health department. If they were together for an extended period of time, it is likely that the health department would ask that kindergartner to also quarantine. Again, I talked to the health department and I said, can you give me for example? And they said, honestly, it depends on the length of time, whether they were masked or not masked. All of those factors come into play. And so she couldn't give me a, yes, this is the way it is answer every time. So we are obligated, if a student is showing signs and symptoms, to contact the health department and then to follow their advice. So that's why as much as possible we're trying to do that. After school, there's really no way to do a kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade program. But thank you.
Appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if the 2 first grade classes would be cohorted together or separately.
They will be kept separately, yes. That is a good question. In fact, when I asked for specials from Midland Public Schools, I specifically said that we will be needing an additional section for our additional first grade. So thank you. While Father Andy's walking around, a question came in over Facebook Live, sharing enrollment numbers for each grade. Oh boy. Kindergarten, we're about 13. First grade, we have one class with 14 and one class with 13. Second grade, I think we're around 15. Third grade, I think it's also around 15. Fourth grade is our large group. We have about 20, 21, maybe 22. Fifth grade, I think it's about 15 again. Sixth and seventh are small.
6 and 9.
6 at 6th grade and 9 at 7th grade. And 8th grade, we have about 13. That's pretty good for off the top of my head. We have a question in the back.
I like it that
Some of the kids go to the other grades for math or reading. How will that work with the cohorts?
Good question. So what we've decided to do is, in order to keep the cohort true to form, if the student is in 2nd grade and moves to 3rd grade, for example, the 3rd grade teacher will provide the material for the 2nd grade teacher. And that 2nd grade teacher will work in a group with that student. Or you have the option to have that lesson zoomed in so that you can watch the teacher teaching that lesson. I know that some people aren't comfortable with the Zoom and they would rather have it done face-to-face. They will be getting the material that way. If we should drop back then to phase 3, that 2nd grader would zoom in with the 3rd grade class. Does that make sense? Thank you for asking that. Well, how Demetrio, because
So, how will staffing issues, so if you have teachers having to dedicate time for other grade level education and cohorts and things like that, are staffing numbers being addressed?
So we don't have a large number of students in any grade that are moving up for math, for example. And right now, the way that we do generally most of our math is centers-based instruction. So it will allow the teacher to create another center. That teacher, the 2nd grade teacher, for example, would not be creating the 3rd grade plans, merely teaching off the plans that the 3rd grade teacher has created. Does that make sense?
For new students, is there a time that they could come into the building? We had planned to do that in the spring and then didn't have an opportunity to do so, but that would be a nice opportunity.
I think that before school begins, if you wanted to do a drop-in visit, I could probably make that happen with masks up. Once school starts, it is more of a drop at the door situation. I also, for those that are on Facebook that haven't been in the school yet, there is a virtual tour online. I encourage you to see it. It's a good way to get an overview of the building.
So just piggybacking off of what she mentioned, is there a Meet the Teacher event?
So what we were thinking is that we try to do a virtual Meet the Teacher event. Because again, getting them all together is not necessarily something that we can do with parents involved. However, we have not finalized all those plans. It would be kind of nice to maybe do an outside parking lot type event where we could meet the teacher in that format. Go ahead.
In your virtual tour, do you get to see the classrooms then?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
First off, as a parent of a kindergartner with a teacher wearing a mask, are they going to have any opportunity to go to a face shield? I understand with my child learning English and grammar and sight words, that pronunciation, the facial
Yes.
motions that go with talking and speaking,
I have, three ways we can work around that. Number one, I'm looking into ordering some masks, some of the clear masks, so that they can be seen. The other thing is we do have face shields, and the health department has said as long as the teacher stays 6 feet away, and if she's doing a phonics lesson, for example, talking about the TH sounds, she certainly can do the with a face shield on so that the students can see how to make that. So absolutely. And then the third way is our Seesaw program, again, is such an easy way for teachers to even do like a 1-minute video of themselves, so they could go to the video screen, say, watch the way I'm making that sound. So there's multiple ways that they can do that. We do intend to use Seesaw in the live classroom as well, because we want students to become so familiar with it that if we have to go back to phase 3, that it's second nature for them.
My next question has to do with the travel. What's the reason behind us having to quarantine our children for 2 weeks after travel out of state when the state doesn't recommend it, Midland Public doesn't? I work for the hospital system. They don't require us to quarantine. I've actually been exposed twice at work to COVID in the past month. Never once have I been asked to quarantine myself. So why are we so strict here?
So again, we are trying to be consistent with the diocesan policies that are in place right now for staff and for visitors to the building. Again, some states have a much greater risk than others, and so I, would ask you, if you are traveling out of state and there's a certain condition and you are isolated, certainly talk to me in advance. There may be some exceptions to the rule, but I can't say that blanket statement without having chatted with you. Obviously, if you go to Disney World at a time like this, that's a high-risk situation. I would not want you to come back into the building because there's a very strong likelihood that you have been exposed in some way.
For sure. Okay. And last question, what about if my child would need speech therapy services, because I know that's something they addressed in Young 5s and in Young 3s.
Yes, thank you for asking that. All of the special services that Midland Public Schools was offering before will still be offered during the Phase 4 instruction. In fact, it will be offered in the Phase 3 instruction just virtually. So Midland has assured me that any special services that they provide for us will continue. Thank you for asking that question. I have a couple that have just come in, so I'm going to ask these. Are 8th graders leaving for high school math class? The unfortunate answer to that is not at this time, and it has nothing to do with our plan. It has to do with last year we were able to send geometry students to Midland Christian. This year Midland Christian School is not taking any enrollments, and so I have to find a new answer to that situation. So, what time is the 8th grade mass on Wednesday? All masses on Wednesdays take place at 8:30 a.m. Underlying health conditions, asthma, okay. So if you do know that your child has an underlying health condition, the reason for notifying us is so that we can be extra cautious if that student is showing signs of any type of distress, either fever or cough or any of those signs. We would want we want to be especially vigilant. It's the same reason we would want to know about your student's allergies. We want to know what to expect so that we can help your student as best as we can. Will something special be done for them? We certainly, if the student is K-5, we might strongly suggest to you that that student consider wearing a mask since there is a high risk. Certainly the face shields would help. If they're a middle school student, the desk shield, we can provide the desk shields to that student as well. So we would have to talk about that. It depends on what the needs of that student are, but we want to know about it for the same reasons that we would want to know about any underlying medical conditions. I don't know what a runner's mask is. It asks if runner's masks are okay. I did ask the health department if students can wear face shields, and they unequivocally said no. They said that a face shield is designed to protect the wearer from any spray, but that when the person breathes out, the moisture from their breath is still going out into the air, and so it doesn't protect others. So they were very clear about the fact that students couldn't wear a face shield. But I don't know what a runner's mask is. I will look that up and get back to you.
Laura, I think there's a mouthpiece over it that they use for altitude training.
Okay.
So,
If it's got some kind of a filter, that's probably fine. Again, I would rather check in with the health department about that, or have whoever that person asked the question. If you could check in with the health department, I will also do so, just because I'm not as familiar with what that is. We have a question in the back.
Laura, I was just going to ask. I think I had emailed, but I just want to make sure. For gym class, do the kids have to wear masks?
Good question. So the answer is most of the gym classes they're going to try to do outside. In fact, Midland Public Schools said even when it's cold out, have them dress for the weather. We're going to be active outside. On those days when it's raining or something else, in Midland Public Schools, they're going to do an in-the-class activity. And I said, we need more movement than that. So I said, if we were to wear a mask and spread out in the gym, could we at least do some like a stretching, aerobic type activities? And they said, absolutely. So the only time they would wear masks is if we absolutely could not be outside.
My second question was, with the unknown of phase 3,
Yes.
I have not purchased uniforms, and I'm very hesitant to do so because I have one little 11-year-old boy that is growing like mad right now.
I can understand.
So, are we still planning on first day of school uniforms, or will there be any kind of flexibility, and or would there be a uniform swap available? I hate to invest a bunch right now, not knowing, and then...
So I can tell you right now that our uniform closet is literally overflowing. I can't even put everything in there. So my plan was to have some tables out on a couple of nice days, sometime in maybe mid-August, third week of August, and allow you to do a uniform sale. It's always been a donation type of event, so we'll just have some shoe boxes. That's a great way to get the uniforms and to buy a variety of sizes without breaking the bank. And that way, honestly, a pair of tan pants you can wear to mass or to something else, even if we can't wear them to school. But I understand the concern. We will do the used uniform sale, and I can guarantee, based on what I've seen in the closet, that we have plenty of clothes to go around.
In the case of quarantine for travel or exposure, what is going to be done to keep the student up to date on what's going on in the classroom?
Absolutely, good question. It depends on if they're K-5 or 6A as far as Seesaw versus Google Classroom. But we will try to the best of our ability to provide all of these same assignments to the students, as well as when we can, some instructional time, either via a phone call, an email, maybe a video. Again, I don't want them to do a video every day in addition to what they're doing in the classroom. And there are the FERPA laws that prevent us from filming a class with students in the classroom. To the best of our abilities, we will provide some instruction in one of those ways, and we will also certainly provide assignments to them. Right over here.
Regarding after school care, how many kids are normally in after school care? I saw there was going to be a cap at 20 kids.
Yeah, last year we had as many as 28. Our license is extended to 30, but the space that we're in doesn't really allow for any kind of distancing if I put 30 students in. So I'm going to try to cap it at 20. Honestly, the average daily attendance was around 20. Some of those people only dropped in 1 day a week, some people 2 days a week. So I don't anticipate it being much of a problem, but the other questionnaire I was going to put out tomorrow is how many people would like to use after school care, just so I can get kind of a rough estimate.
Okay. Yeah, because last year we did it a month ahead of time. We told them when we would need it. But
Yes.
realistically, I could arrange my schedule if other people absolutely have it as their only option. So if that kind of information is available, I'd appreciate having
Absolutely. Once I have the results of the survey, I'll share it. If I find out that 50 people need after school care, then we're going to have to put our thinking caps on and come up with a new solution.
that. Will the kiddos be able to wear their masks lanyard around their neck if they want to throughout the day, even if they're younger?
I would be okay with it, except during recess, actually. If it's a lanyard with a breakaway, I'm much more comfortable with that. The ones that do not have a breakaway, if the students are on the gym equipment and they happen to get caught up on that, I don't want some other kind of hazard coming out because of that. My other thought was that we were going to provide inter-office mail envelopes with their names on it, and the student could simply take it off, drop it in that envelope, put it in a basket, and go off and play. And then when they come back, they pick up their own envelope, take the mask back out. And that way they don't get in pockets either and fall out on the ground. Having said that, please do label your masks. If I find a white mask on the ground and I don't know who it belongs to, the best safety thing for me to do is to pick it up with gloves and dispose of it. So please put your names on things.
And then my last question is just regarding the teachers. Have you gotten feedback from them on the plan? Like our local teachers, are they feeling good about this? Is there anything we can do to support them? Because I know this is a lot to take on for our teachers.
It is a lot to take on, and I have been in communication with them. I sent them the plan before it ever went out to the school, before it went to the school committee, before it went out to you. I wanted their feedback on it. I think that they are an incredibly creative and energetic and dedicated group of staff members, and I saw that last year when we had to flip on a dime and do virtual instruction. I couldn't have asked for a more dedicated staff, and I'm quite certain that they are ready for whatever, as ready as we can be for whatever gets thrown at us. Having said that, I would love it if you could reach out to your classroom teacher at some point and say, what can I do to help? Because I'm sure there are some ways. Thank you for asking that question. Other questions?
Be a great opportunity. I know we have Mrs. Wallace is here and Mrs. Neiman.
Yes.
It's two of our lower grade, first grade, second grade, and Mrs. Shaner. Is that all the teachers? Did I miss anybody? Oh, sorry.
Over here we have Mrs. Bershaber, who will be
Jennifer
our
Bershaber,
first.
yes.
Yep. So,
Thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you for all of your support in helping us to return to the classroom. Appreciate it very much. And Mrs. Bershaber will be first grade as well for the beginning of the year.
Any other questions? Again, I'm sure that as we get closer to the beginning of the year, things will pop into your head, things will pop into my head. Feel free to email me, reach out. Our overall plan is to try to normalize the situation as much as we can. Having said that, we are not in a normal time. This coronavirus is not a normal circumstance. So some of the parts of the school day don't look the same, and I apologize for that. But we are trying to adapt to this new normal. I'd like to read just a quick thing that I saw that Mrs. Shark saw on Facebook and sent it to me. But it's a great way of thinking about the year. I would ask that all of you erase the image of what you think normal is for the school year. Start with a fresh canvas. Help your child make this year beautiful with what the district is offering, with what the school is offering. If your children hear you talk about how tough it's going to be, they will go into the school year thinking this is tough. If you tell them that it's going to be so hard to wear the mask, they will think it's hard to wear the mask. The more that you can be excited about the start of the school year, the more that they will be. There's still a lot of details that we have to figure out about the year. And we have to have faith that any decisions that will be made last minute will be made with the safety of your students in mind. In the meantime, if you can remember to be grateful for the jobs that you have that allow you to go to work during the pandemic. Be thankful for the amazing staff at this school who will watch your children. Feel that you are blessed by your faith and your belief in God, who will help you and us to make the right decisions. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, and I'm, as expected with face masks and sun, I missed Mrs. Young, who is our reading specialist, sitting over there on her beach chair. So, thank you. She's also got sons in the school, so she blended in as a parent tonight.
I might point that out as well. Keep in mind that whatever I'm asking you to do for your children, I'm asking for my children to do as well. I have an 8th grade student here and a 6th grade student here who will wear masks for the whole day, every day. There's nothing that I'm asking you to do that I'm not asking of my own children, of myself. It has been a different experience to wear the mask in the school day, but we can do it, and we'll be all right. Thank you all.
Make sure you save the video.
Yes.
Thank you.
As soon as I can, make sure that I stop the video. I can't see. Hi Facebook. I'm gonna stop this in just a second as soon as